Or is this full-time MMA now?
I love full-time MMA right now.
Full-time MMA? Nothing else?
My life, man, yeah.
Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full-time
MMA.
Brian T. City Ortega is standing by his decision to duck his motherfucking taco at UFC 226 and not stay on the card after Max Holloway had concussion-like symptoms and was forced out of the fight. There was a couple options being talked about. Frankie Edgar offered to step up. Now his family wasn't really into that. A little too soon for Frankie Edgar, they felt like, we found out, but he still threw his name in the hat and was again willing to step up on short notice and try and save another card, which is actually how Brian Ortega got this opportunity. But not only did Frankie Edgar step up, a more legitimate guy who actually was almost on weight, because he's going to be fighting like next week or pretty soon, upcoming, Jeremy Stephens, another featherweight guy that's already in conversations for a potential future title shot. He was willing to step up and save the card, but Brian Ortega wasn't really interested, and he's standing by his decision. Now, a lot of people are criticizing him for this decision because, for one, this is exactly how he got his opportunity whenever Max Holloway got injured and Frankie Edgar decided to stay on the card. That's how he was able to defeat Frankie Edgar and get his title shot. Now he's not giving that opportunity to another fighter. For one, he's not saving the card, so we lost the co-main event, and we saw what the co-main event turned into. I mean, and now hindsight's 2020, but hey, we could have had a different co-main event. You know what I'm saying? We ended up getting Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis, and we know how that fight played out, and it could have been Brian Ortega versus Jeremy Stephens. And after the UFC found out Brian Ortega didn't want to accept the fight, they were trying to get an interim title fight between Jeremy Stephens and Frankie Edgar. Like, all right, if you're out, they're in. They'll fight for it if you don't. But that's when Frankie Edgar's team kind of, brought out the fact, yeah, Frankie wants the fight, but it's a little too soon. Jeremy Stephens is a motherfucker right now. I don't know if people are wanting to fight Jeremy Stephens right now. He's a hungry dude. He's looking for that title shot. I'm sure he can't wait to get his hands on Jose Aldo, but he's a guy that wants that title shot, I'm telling you right now. Jeremy Stephens would have fought Frankie Edgar, Brian Ortega, or his motherfucking mom to get that title shot. And I don't know Jeremy Stephens enough to say he would have fought his mom, but you get the point. He would have fought anybody in that featherweight division to get his title shot that night, because that's what he's going for, hungry as fuck. But you got Brian Ortega not wanting to give that opportunity. So Jeremy Stephens felt strongly, spoke with TMZ and said, fuck you to Brian Ortega for denying me my opportunity. And a lot of other people kind of agree. They're not really giving Brian Ortega a pass. They say, look, Conor McGregor takes short notice fights. He was going to fight one of the most devastating strikers in the featherweight division, fell out on short notice, and had to fight Chad Mendes, one of the best wrestlers in the featherweight division. Completely different style matchup. He stayed on the card and took that fight and fought Chad Mendes and won the fight. Khabib Nurmagomedov was going through multiple opponent switches and went from Tony Ferguson to Max Holloway to Ally Quintin. Never said no. Took the fights. So people are comparing some of the bigger stars of the sport and saying, hey, they're willing to risk it and put it on the line. Why aren't you? And real quick, full-time family, before you forget, make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying this video. And also, if you're new, hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. And if you want to see more videos like this, just check out the video description, the Full-Time MMA Dojo over here at patreon.com/fulltimemma. And you can see a lot of other cool things, including the goals of this channel, which is something new. So make sure you go check that out. And with that being said, enjoy the rest of the video. And, it could be multiple things. Now you have to put yourself in Brian Ortega's shoes, play devil's advocate. This is the biggest opportunity of his life. I mean, after his UFC debut, he might have never even imagined this day. Brian Ortega's a guy, he came in, won his UFC debut, failed the drug test, and I believe he said it was something to help him make weight. He got suspended, and he admitted he was wrong. Came out and just ate that shit. Like, yeah, man, I fucked up. I'm sorry. I was trying to look good in my debut. And then after that, he's came out and he's went undefeated ever since. He's still undefeated in his career. He's been down in a lot of those fights. And the beginning of a lot of his early fights in the UFC, he was losing those fights. If it would have went to decision, we wouldn't know Brian Ortega today. But he always found a way to get the finish. He doesn't leave it in the judges' scorecards. Whether he knocks you out or he submits you, Doesn't matter. He gets the finish. So with that being said, that's how we got to Brian Ortega today, and he started looking better and better every fight. He fought Cub Swanson, almost finished him at the end of the first round. Cub Swanson saved by the bell a little bit, but Cub Swanson was piecing him up in the first round as far as the stand-up is concerned. But that's the story of Brian Ortega's career. You can be beating me up a little bit. I'm coming for that finish, and that's what he was able to get in the second round on Cub Swanson. In the second round this time. Was a lot of third round finishes, now he's moving to the second round. Then he fights Frankie Edgar. Holy smokes. Ultimate test. We saw what Frankie Edgar did to the last test, Yair Rodriguez. He fights Brian Ortega, and on short notice, because he gave him that opportunity, Brian Ortega gets a first round knockout. No one expected that in the world. If you thought he was going to win, you might have thought it was a submission, but you didn't expect a first round knockout from Brian Ortega, and that's exactly what happened. And now he's got a title shot somewhere he probably didn't dream of being. And now he lost it, sort of, when Max Holloway was injured. And he's like, damn, I came this far. This is crazy I'm even here. Should I risk this? Should I risk everything I worked for to please the fans? What do you think, family? What do you think, coach? Listen, man, it's probably not worth it. You know what I'm saying? If you're his team and his family, because you've never been the champion before. When you become the champion, that's when you start getting paid the real money, the championship money, pay-per-view points. Until then, a lot of these fighters aren't making a lot of money. So this is his opportunity. And that's the difference with Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar's had multiple title shots. He's been the champion. He's made a living in the sport. Brian Ortega's trying to get there, so they're different. It's not as easy to say for that. But to be fair, this was an interim title fight. If you win this fight, you still fight Max Holloway next. So are you not very confident in your abilities? And that's reasonable. I mean, I can understand that. Brian Ortega's a guy that's been down in his fights. How many times is lightning gonna strike? Seriously. For Brian Ortega, lightning is striking. Or it's just his clutch gene coming out. When you're down in that many fights and you come back and win by finish, lightning is striking. When you knock out Frankie Edgar in the first round, lightning's striking. If you fought Frankie Edgar again, lightning would have to strike twice. Shoot, if you fight Jeremy Stephens, you got a real possibility of getting KO'd. Jeremy Stephens is a motherfucker. You'd have to strike lightning. So this motherfucker is Zeus in terms of how much times lightning has almost struck for him. And so now, he's only got to really win one more time against Max Holloway unless he takes a fight against one of these other killers. And so, yeah, he probably made the best decision for him. But, hey, man, some of the fans ain't really rocking with that because they feel like that's not what Conor would have done or that's not what Khabib would have done. But also keep in mind, Brian Ortega is not just fighting for himself. He's fighting for the Brian Ortega Foundation. He's trying to actually do something positive and constructive for the world. So he's trying to get money for that as well. And in order to get the most money to help the most kids, to help his family the most, it's going to be by trying to get that belt. And so if you just take risky fights, in the meantime, you could derail everything you've worked for. So I see both sides of it, but hey, man, let me know what side you guys are on in the comments. And before we go, shout out to all the full-time MMA white belts that have hit the subscribe button. Make sure you also hit the notification bell right next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. And if you want to become a full-time MMA blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, or black belt, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/fulltimemma. I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking DOG.